Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 o'clock Central, so we will get started. Thank you for tuning in to today's webinar, Tips and Tools for Improving Your Welding Training Process. My name is Emily Winnestorfer. I will be your moderator for today's presentation. Presenting today, we have Jamey McIntosh. He is our Education's Programs Manager here at Realityworks. Jamey has been with us for a little over 10 years and came to us with an extensive education background as a former educator who taught high school in Wisconsin and in Colorado. His topics cover student engagement, technology in the classroom, filling the skills gap, business education, and various agriculture and welding topics. He is a fantastic resource for today's webinar. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Jamey to get us going.
All right, thanks, Emily. Thank you very much for taking the time today to meet with us. We are excited that you are here and to talk about, tips and tools for improving your welding training process. So really important to just kind of take the time to think about what are we doing, how are we doing it, and are there ways to improve? And so want to walk through with you some of the things that we feel can be helpful in this world. So to start out with, just a little reminder, we are using Zoom. And so if you do have questions, there should be a chat or a Q&A area for you to click on that and go ahead and ask your questions when you have them. Type them in. At the end, we will have a Q&A session, and so we will try to answer those when we get there. Now, just an introduction, welcome to you. Thank you for taking the time. A little bit about us, Realityworks. We are an education company here in the United States that really focuses on how can we help and how can we get students skilled up in careers that will, take them to higher demand jobs, higher paying jobs, and skilled trades. And so we are in a lot of different areas within technical education. We are an education partner, and all of our products really focus on interactive learning aids and curriculum and how we can help engage your students. So want to start out with what we would say a 21st century welding program looks like. We have a visual here that walks through what what we are aspiring to get education and welding education to really have an understanding of what are best practices, best ways to get into the world of just quality learning and to help students just gain that knowledge and get that much better at having the skill of welding and really trades in general. So we're going to start with some tips to enhance your welding program. We're going to focus very much on and hope that these little things will be things that you can take away and use in your own classrooms. Start thinking about ways and how you can help your students. So first off, one of the things that I always look at as a teacher is to focus on what I can control. Still in this crazy world we're in, it's important that we really focus on how do we help the students and do the things that we can do best. And what I would say is, I kind of looked over this, is, creating those positive relationships with your students. That can come through having very interesting, helpful, answering the why question of why are we doing this, and engaging your students. Now, a lot of times that can come with things like increasing arc time and experiences in welding, letting them get the doing, not just the, in the classroom time. And so that's something that anytime you can increase that arc time or help them to get that simulated arc time, that is going to help your students along the way. And then ultimately, what does that do? That helps increase ability to understand welding knowledge. Anytime that you are helping your students do, they are then going to learn from that. And so knowledge will be gained in that way. And one of the things we want to help today with is to help you find tools that can keep those students interested, engage them. And we feel like we have some tools that can help in this way. So how do you engage students? Well, in today's day and age, a lot of times we have to look and find what is attracting our students. Is it things like in the welding world, playing with fire, melting things? For some, it's creating projects and the creative process that goes along with doing that. For some of them, it is that seeing, a pile of metal and what can it be at the end of the day. So what attracts your students? So I just want you to think about what are some things that attracts your students to welding, to your classroom. For some, it's that hands-on ability where, hey, I learn best by being hands-on. So helping them to find what attracts them and then bringing it out. And how do we feel like we can do that? One of the ways we see that is through bringing technology, games, and competition. So right now, there's all these different ways to bring technology into your classroom, even in the sense of every student nowadays usually has a smartphone, and that is technology. So having them be able to do videos of, tutorials of how to weld, how to do certain positions of welding, what you should do in certain safety aspects of welding, having them use to take pictures, to do videos, to interact. Those are all easy kind of technology pieces that can engage students, that brings them into the mix of what they enjoy and do. Now, there are also a lot of different type of technology, and we'll talk about virtual reality technology that helps engage and brings students in that. Other things, and this is kind of games and competition. Giving students that ability to not only learn, but to get into a gamification, having them not only see it as a learning process, but how can I compete for something? How can it become kind of a fun thing, or to check where my skill is versus another? And competition is a big piece of that puzzle. So bring in the students' interest. If students are, talking about how the things they want to weld deal with their vehicles, with gates or things from the farm, or they want to make their family a roaster, or whatever it might be. Bring those students' interest into the classroom and have them to understand. And one of the things that can do this is really what I would say is work on defining competition. So some examples that I've seen as I have been to different welding classrooms and really see some pretty cool opportunities that you teachers are doing are a lot of different things here. One of the classrooms I've been into is they have a Friday weld off, where everybody gets a chance to do a weld, and then all the classmates, they all score them. And so you're working on visual identification. You're working on doing the best weld that you can. You're working on then competition, having them compete. So it means a little bit more. It's not just I'm doing welds, but there's a competition involved. All right. Now, at the same time, I've seen a place where they have a weekly trophy holder. They actually built and welded a trophy together. And then each week the teacher is watching the students, and that teacher gets to pick the winner of the trophy for that week to bring it home for the weekend and bring it back on Monday. Now, doing that can help in classroom management. Students have a goal to look for. They're able to try to help and find if, hey, am I the one who might be able to do that? And then really work on kind of creating that competition and that, if you want, tradition within your classroom. Now, the next one, weld a project. This is one where I have the visual of Instructables up there. This is a website you can go to and have students pick their own projects and be able to then make their own projects. Now, is that competition? It may not be competition, but what you'll find is some students will get really into that. By getting into that and getting that excitement, that interest, it becomes a competition, maybe not with other students, but with themselves. How good could I make this? Now, there's a lot of different opportunities there for students to make a very, very wide range of projects. This allows students to be able to really kind of take the learning and take it on themselves. That leads into the next one, sellable projects. Some of these things might be sellable, might be able to sell within your community, bringing interest to your community and bringing money back into your pocketbook as a welding or education classroom, and then using that for other needs you have in the classroom. Then the last one is weekly percentage competition. When we talk about Guideweld VR, our virtual reality welding simulator, we have classrooms who every week they will have percentages where they will have their students be doing welds, which gets a score. And the students have to track their percentages, and you add them all up, the number of welds you did, your percentages, you divide by the number of welds you did, whoever has the highest percentage, that's the weekly winners. And so these are just simple ways to incorporate and define the competition within your classroom. Again, allowing for critical thinking skills, problem solving skills to all be involved when you go into this world. And some tips here for you to start thinking about what could you do each week to create competition, create excitement in your classroom. Now, the next one here is creating confidence. And we have our Guideweld VR product in the picture here. This whole purpose is to create confidence. By doing welds and having students simulate welding over and over again, we can create a foundation for all student learning. They all are doing the same type of welds. They all are getting the same, scored on the same things. They then can have a reduction in their own confidence, or in their own danger, intimidation, and lack of confidence, which then leads to more confidence for your students, allowing them to really feel like, okay, when I walk into that booth, I have some background knowledge. I have some ability here to be able to go, and the confidence to say, yep, I can do these welds. I've done it before in the simulated world. I'm ready for the real thing. And then it also brings engagement to students that they're interested in. As they do MIG welding, as they do stick welding, to be able to see, hey, I like one area or another. I'm better at one area. This is interesting to me for doing it for these types of metals and these types of positions. So giving them that ability to create confidence on their own. Then we have this idea of how do we get them to engage with the world around them? And this is another tip that I would suggest. And, in certain areas and certain times, you may not be able to have speakers come in, but you could always do a video interview with a speaker. You could have that be something where you can save it and then show it to your students. But contact speakers, talk to them. What are they seeing? A lot of times too, these are your industry leaders. So working with them to say, what are the things that we need to be aware of, and what students need to be aware of, and how can we incorporate that into the classroom? There are some classrooms who, from talking with speakers, they will have created their own time card system. So students start getting that understanding of, when I come in, when I leave, what is the expectation into that world? That also goes into creating a career tree for students. In this case, is there a way to start showing students what are the different types of trade jobs in your area? Creating that ability to start looking at career exploration and what's going on. All right, how can you create a plan for your student success by letting them see, okay, yep, this is what you're learning, but here's an outcome that you can have. You can go and you can get this job in our community, in this area. These are the paths that you can go on. And finally, Realityworks has some free curriculum for you and resources that you can use. We have a career exploration lesson plan, 7 different lessons on career explorations within welding. That's a great resource that you can use anytime in your classroom to help your students. We also have some free welding curriculum. So some samples for you to use and be able to get information in that world. So those are some tips that hopefully, as you start looking at this visual of a 21st century classroom, it's really not always that you can change everything, but what can you do with 1 or 2 things? What are some ways with some of those tips that you can then kind of say, hey, how do I energize my students? How do I tweak things little by little? What does that do? It helps with classroom management. It helps with students' interest. It helps in a lot of different ways. And that's important because when we're talking about implementing enhancing your program, one of the things is there is a need for welders. We have a large need, and it is only going to get more as we continue to get into the world of infrastructure needs and retiring welders and the change in job opportunities out there. This is something that there is going to be a need for a long time coming. And today's classroom, a lot of times you are looking at having a very well-rounded, a lot of students in a classroom. You may not have all the needed welding booths or all the needed materials, but how can you help them to learn even if you don't have the perfect setup? What we're looking for here is how do you take that next step? How do you get to that world and really helpful? One of the things that we feel that you can do is by using virtual welding simulation. This is a great way to increase your breadth and your depth of your program by adding virtual reality, allowing students to have more arc time, more abilities practice, trial and error, and to be able to get into that world. So it really does start with the welding simulation lab, getting them proficient in understanding proper welding technique before they go and they start doing their welding and start working there. So I'm going to talk a few minutes here just about some of our welding products. We have our Guideweld VR. This is a welding simulator. It hooks right up to the computers that you have and then shows on the screen there. And in this case, in the virtual world, it has guides, hence the name Guideweld. And as you weld, it guides you through if you are doing the correct welding speed, travel angle, work angle, nozzle plate, straightness, and then you can do a push or a pull depending on what your needs are. All of this helps your students then do a weld, be able to visually see the weld, and then at the end, you actually get an assessment for every single weld you do. This weld can be saved then so they can see how they did. So we have work angle, travel angle, plate distance, speed, and straightness, giving them an understanding of what they're doing correct, what do they need to work on, and then how do they go to an overall positive score? What do they do in that world? Another product that we have is our Guideweld Live product. This is a product that allows you to do welds in the real world. So inside the helmet, when you're actually doing welds here, you can actually go about and see as a person is doing weld, we have guidance systems that show your work angle, travel angle, and speed. So inside the helmet, as you do a weld, it's showing you if you're going the correct speed, if your work angle is correct or incorrect, and how do you fix it? What do you need to do in that case? So as a student is welding, this is a guidance system. It's those training wheels to help that student make sure that they're going the correct speed, the correct work angle, and are able to do the weld the best that they can. Now, the importance of this is that by doing this, they become better welders. Research shows that through some different studies that have been done, that virtual reality welding can increase learning and welding technique and help students create quality welds. And it does it in reduced amount of time and reduced amount of cost of materials. So in this case here, it shows that there can create more welders in less time, both in a T-joint and also in a butt joint position, allowing you to be able to help your students gain confidence, gain understanding, and do better welds by including virtual reality welding simulation. It also shows that we can have more welds with less cost, allowing you to use your savings for other types of programs, other types of things that you might have the need for in your welding shop. So why does Guideweld VR and Guideweld Live work? Well, the ease of play, the ease of use to be able to go ahead and use it, creating off of WPSs so it can be exact welds that you want. Increasing the arc time, allowing students who maybe can't get into the shop welding booth to be able to do it and simulate and get more time actually having a puddle and an arc. And then it's a cost-effective opportunity. Our product has great cost-effective and usability for students to be able to have repetitive play and be able to learn from their different welding technique. So one place that this is happening is in Arizona, where they are using all of our welding technology and tools to be able to help.
Guideweld VR has really helped me, especially just learn the muscle memory.
Something I like about Guideweld VR is like the golden gun. It shows you the appropriate speed and height and the angle that you use.
The guides help me maintain a steady speed. They help me understand where to place my hands so that way I can turn it a certain way so that way I can get into the groove or joint that I'm working with.
Seeing 100% was definitely a confidence booster. I did better than everyone. It was cool. High confidence booster. Feel proud of yourself.
When I've used the Guideweld system, it's really helped me with my travel angle and my speed.
Having them with that extra guide and assistance inside the hood as they're physically welding is always a win-win.
Which is why I like this more, because it's real. You get adjusted to actually what's going on with the sparks.
learning how a WPS works. Purpose of a WPS is having another tool that they can use to get that same information is, you know, definitely a win.
The helmets would help by just having the angles correct, the speed correct.
The machine really helped me pick up my own travel angle, the travel speed, anything that really technical that you really need to be hitting for a good weld. You could be slightly varianced, and this machine really helps you pick up on that and fine-tune your welding experience.
Definitely, I'd had really good feedback from kids about saying, hey, that really helped me out. Having that self-assessment tool is always good. You know, having them a tool that they can assess themselves or even assess each other as peers, you know, and almost make it a competition in a way, or just being helpful to each other and all of that. You know, my ultimate goal is to, you know, get those kids a successful career, and they're not just walking away with just a diploma, they're also leaving with a skill that they can use.
So that brings us to other available resources that we have to offer. One of our newest products is our Common Welding Joints Kit. This is a product that allows students to be able to see what are the most common welding joints. And there's 10 common welding joints in this kit, both focusing on how to do welds with SMAW and GMAW. So in this case, it allows students to be able to have actual welds. And in this, these welds are not metal welds, but they are plastic welds that were molded off of metal welds, all right? And by having that, a certified AWS welding educator created every one of the common welding joints actual welds. We then molded right on top, right over, to be able to get the perfect visual and ability to be able to show every single weld in the Common Welding Joints Kit. This then shows both details and talks about SMAW and GMAW. This allows students to be able to also have flashcards that walks them through each of the different types of welding joints and what they need to do, and helpful hints for both SMAW and GMAW, allowing students to really gain an understanding of how and to learn from each weld that they are going to do, giving them an understanding of that basic knowledge within the welding world. Now, another product that can help students is our Weld Defects Kit. Our Weld Defects Kit comes with 12 different defects and one quality weld. This allows you to be able to see what a defect is. What are the different defects that you could be having when you do your weld? So there's porosity, there's lack of fusion, there's overlap, there's spatter. It goes through 12 different defects that you might run into as a welder. And so again, these were molded with a hard plastic right over an actual weld that was done by AWS certified inspector and educator. And what this helps with is, again, is to get students to understand what the issue is, to be able to look at, okay, is it overlap or is this lack of fusion? How do I know what it is? And then it helps to explain both for SMAW and GMAW what they would need to then make that change. There's flashcards that go along with this as well. Next we have is our Real Career Bend Tester. This product is a guided bend test manual product that allows you to actually do bends. So the great piece about this is that students can use this to not only do and qualify, do I have a quality weld or not, but we give 8-lesson curriculum on how to do the bend test, how to prep for it, and then how to actually qualify your weld as well. So as they're going through it, there are posters that are included to show what are the qualifications. Also the bending basics, what are the things you need to know about the bending machine? And then in this case here, it goes into, all right, what are the different defects that you could have and still have a passed bend. It talks through how to bend, how to prep your welding weld so you're ready to go when you actually do a bend test. It goes through all the different pieces of how to prep for the bend test before you actually do it, allowing you, the educator, and your students to learn all that, all again following AWS D11 certification. So in this case, it walks you through every single piece of the step with PowerPoint slides, with worksheets, with activities, and then allowing you to do the real thing. So a lot of times, one of the things that we look at is how can we help you implement this into your program? So, involve other industries and ask them what they're doing and what you want them to be doing in the classroom. Because a lot of times your students will go out and may get a job with these local industries. So make sure that you're talking and working with them. That's another great place where if you are interested in these products, a lot of times your local businesses are happy to help and are interested in how they can promote and show welding in the classroom. They may be a great purchasing partner for some of the products. Also, career planning, making sure that your students are seeing the careers that are out there. And then, as we talked about, think about the 21st century welding and how you want to implement or bring this kind of way of learning into your classroom. Ways to focus then is we talked about competition, getting some community involvement, having students be able to make different products and then have it to be used within the community, helps bring interest and credibility to your programs. And then confidence, help your students to gain confidence. When they get confident welding, they enjoy welding. That is something where it is very important to help them to gain their confidence there. Again, as we kind of get close to wrapping up here, all of our products that we have come with a very strong curriculum involvement too. PowerPoint slides, welding activities, interactive classroom activities, worksheets, and works with giving you different opportunities for your students to learn in the classroom, in the shop, virtually, and then also doing the real thing, helping you really create a 21st century classroom and a new way or a way for your students to engage and learn all the different things that welding have to offer. So with that said, we have a few minutes for questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat area and we will answer those as we see them.
Hey, Jamie, do you want to go over what everybody will be receiving after the webinar one more time?
Yeah, so a great question. So we will have this PowerPoint slide for you, so you can use that if there's some things here that you saw that you liked, you'd want to use it. We will also have the link for the career exploration free lessons. All you have to do is fill out a form and you can get 7 lessons for the curriculum. And then we also will have some links on there for some of our pages that we have here of our different products that you can then go and see and get more information if there's interest in that world.
Perfect. And I do want to note that everybody attending today's presentation will be receiving a certificate of completion as well. And you should see that in your email within 24 hours. And Jamie, I'm not seeing any additional questions coming through at this time.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you taking the time today to be with us. If you have any other questions, you can always go to our website, realityworks.com, or you can email us at information@realityworks.com or call us. We are always here and I'd be happy to help answer any questions or get with someone who, if you're interested in any of our products, they would be happy to work with you on that as well.